Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're here today to discuss mass incarceration in Baltimore with a focus on its health effects and its effects on urban development. I've hand-selected the four of you to form a special task force. I believe that with the viewpoints of a police commissioner, a school administrator, a community activist, and a judge represented here today, we can sift through various solutions and find the best fit for our city.
One of the major factors into mass incarceration is through the school to prison pipeline. Now, 68% of all males in state and federal prisons end up having no high school diploma. My proposal is to reduce the amount of police presence on campus in public schools and expand counseling programs to help troubled students instead of turning them into delinquents, such as less arrests and expulsions and more counseling centers. This is the RPP, reduction of police presence. Benefits include less arrests, obviously, more students in counseling centers to help fix their problems, and it's cost effective. Potential cons can be argued that it makes the school less safe, since it's, the reason for increased police presence on campus is due to school shootings and whatnot. And the projected price is $2 million to pay for the school counseling programs and reform finances to focus on more impoverished schools in underfunded neighborhoods. Now, my next program is the ESI. It's the Early School Improvements. In order to better reduce crime and thus reduce mass incarceration rates, initiatives to help children stay in school and further their education in order to prevent the path towards crime before it begins. Now, this is the many reasons that this is how kids end up becoming delinquents, is that it doesn't just automatically happen in high school. It starts at an early age, and if we can target them at an early age, then we can prevent it before it ever occurs. And my proposed initiative programs include expanding school hours in elementary and middle schools, and raising quality of education by raising teacher salaries in impoverished areas and areas of interest. The benefits include long-term solution for reducing mass incarceration. Potential cons are that it's costly, but I feel like it's worth it. And the price is $10 million a year to effectively raise teacher wages in areas of interest and to cover extended school hours.
Ms. Mayor, in light of your recent concern regarding the high incarceration rates in our city, I developed a two-pronged program to help tackle this problem. Following the success of recent efforts in our own community and the long-term success of similar programs in cities such as Detroit, I suggest we expand our community policing initiatives. In an effort to decentralize our law enforcement, we must, one, ingrain our officers within the community so they can proactively work to reduce crime and build community relationships rather than simply punish criminals, and two, raise community involvement in their own law enforcement through education and promotion of programs like Neighborhood Watch. Ma'am, this program would offer a number of benefits. One, by involving police in individual neighborhoods, we can greatly improve our current strained police-community relationships. Two, our officers can do more than just punish crime. We can proactively work in our communities to prevent crime from happening in the first place. And three, by building support for law enforcement within the city and getting private citizens involved in our law enforcement efforts, the community will become an indispensable resource to the force. I must warn you though, Ms. Mayor, expanding these efforts won't be easy. Many parts of the city will be resistant to building these positive relationships with our officers, and it will take time for the program to achieve its potential. However, BPD is more than ready to handle this task. With $21 million, we could expand the force by 10%, allowing each officer to properly devote their time to their community. These officers, along with approximately $4 million for educational materials and programs, can increase community involvement in law enforcement. With a total cost of $25 million per year, we can change the face of Baltimore Police Department and drastically reduce incarceration rates.
Thank you, Police Commissioner.
From a judicial perspective, I believe that the Baltimore Circuit Court needs to work against mass incarceration by reducing racial profiling and becoming more realistic about sentencing. The main issues we need to address are racial inequality in sentencing and incarceration, and sentencing itself. African Americans are 6 times as likely to be incarcerated as whites in Maryland, and it's estimated that if African Americans and Hispanics were incarcerated at the same rate as whites, jail and prison populations would decrease by approximately 50%. It may be optimistic, but if we aimed for equal rates, Maryland could save up to $100 million of taxpayer money per year on incarceration. With sentencing, the sentences relative to the crimes a person has committed are too harsh, and the push for minimum sentencing being longer isn't helping anyone. By making sure the punishments fit the crime and parole and good time credit are granted, as opposed to these longer minimum sentences, convicts can be sooner reintegrated into society. There's less cost for the government to keep them in the prison and jail system, and a healthier and stronger community is formed where the judicial system isn't constantly demonized. It's been statistically proven and well observed that higher rates do not equal lower crime rates. So let's move away from it and take steps to realistically make Baltimore safer.
Racial profiling and institutional racism greatly contribute to the rates of incarceration in Baltimore and who is incarcerated. Here are a few statistics to highlight this. Even though blacks make up 64% of people that live in Baltimore, they make up 89% of the people who are incarcerated in the city. And victims of severe police brutality are typically and mostly people of color as well. To combat this, there should be more even allocation of resources across neighborhoods in Baltimore without gentrifying these communities. Also, there should be guidelines and accountability measures for police, including screening for racial bias in incoming police officers, reducing use of excessive force upon attempting an arrest through the use of body cameras, and encouraging safe intervention efforts. Reducing racially profiling residents in Baltimore through cultural competency training should also be enacted. It would cost $58 million to install body cameras for all the police officers in the city. $288 million of taxpayer money in Maryland is spent on corrections in Baltimore currently. Reducing that amount spent on incarcerating people and increasing the amount of funds that is put into efforts to reduce racial profiling and revitalizing communities will allow for the state to not spend extra money. A potential con to this is backlash that will be received from police unions, the state government, politicians that campaign on racial divide and locking more people up.
Thank you for your input today. Considering your diverse backgrounds, the ideal solution is one that combines aspects of all of your plans. In light of our goals, I would suggest, dare I say, a four-legged stool to reduce incarceration. First, we're going to use the guidelines that community activist Rana discussed. In order to make this part of the plan economically feasible, we will slowly phase in body cameras in the precincts with the highest police brutality rates. Instead of a $58 million upfront cost, this will be done over the course of 10 years, which means about $6 million per year. The education efforts that she described can be achieved with about $2 million annually, which would make the first leg of the stool cost $8 million every year. We will then use Police Commissioner Jeremy's community policing proposal, which will build off of the guidelines set by community activist Rana. Because a 10% force increase isn't economically feasible, we will instead increase the force by 5%, with a cost of $10.5 million annually. The education programs that Commissioner Jeremy described can be achieved with about $2 million per year, which makes this portion of the plan cost $12.5 million. Next, we will address the school-to-prison pipeline that School Administrator No described. Cutting down on police presence in school will save the city money annually, and we can redirect those funds towards after and before school programs and counseling centers. Assuming that each of the 191 schools in Baltimore has 2 police officers, and that those police officers are paid $47,000 per year, if we cut the number of school police officers in half, about $9 million per year will be saved by the city and can be used to later strengthen schools. Finally, we can follow the suggestions of Judge Taz and attempt to fix our flawed legal system. This is a long-term issue, and I suggest creating a task force of about 10 people who will solely focus on reducing racial inequality and sentencing and incarceration and will make sentencing less harsh. This will cost $800,000 per year and will save Maryland up to $100 million annually in the future. The legged stool addresses many factors and will cost about $21.3 million annually when you consider the costs that we save. Over time, our plan will save the state hundreds of millions of dollars. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.